And now the story of a Mormon family who lost their faith and the one son who had no choice but to keep them all together. It's development.
I was the one that got him to produce the birth certificate, and I think I did a good job.
But he really didn't.
Secretary Clinton also fought it. I mean, now everybody in mainstream is going to say, oh, that's not true. Look, it's true.
But it wasn't. And although he started off well,
Hillary has experience, but it's bad experience.
his ideas failed to evolve.
We have made so many bad deals during the last... So she's got experience, that I agree, but it's bad experience.
Someone who has said pregnancy is an inconvenience to employers, who has said women...
Pregnancy is never... it's a wonderful thing for the woman. It's a wonderful thing for the husband. It's certainly an inconvenience for a business. I think that I've developed very, very good relationships over the last little while with the African-American community. I think you can see that.
I call it trumped up, trickle down.
Hey, that's his last name. On the next to develop.
We have to bring back law and order. Now, whether or not in a place like Chicago you do stop and frisk.
This is Infants on Thrones. Philosophies of men mingled with humor. We are the core.
They know better, a lot of these folks who ran, and they didn't say anything. And so they don't get credit for, at the very last minute, when finally the guy that they nominated and they endorsed and they supported is caught on tape saying things that no decent person would even think, much less say, much less brag about, much less laugh about or joke about, much less act on. You can't wait until that finally happens and then say, oh, that's too much, that's enough, and think that somehow you are showing any kind of leadership and deserve to be elected to the United States Senate. You don't get points for that. In fact, I'm more forgiving of the people who actually believe it than the people who know better and stood silently by out of political expediency because it was politically convenient. And if your only organizing principle has been to block progress and block what we've tried to do to help the American people every step of the way, so you're not even consistent anymore. You claim the mantle of the party of family values. And this is the guy you nominate and stand by and endorse and campaign with until finally, at the 11th hour, you withdraw your nomination? You don't get credit for that. You're the party that is tough on foreign policy and opposes Russia, and then you nominate this guy, whose role model is Vladimir Putin, the former head of the KGB. I'm sorry, what happened?
So I'm here with Matthew Scott Long, attorney at large, and by trade. By trade. And you know, like this whole campaign has been so weird, but especially this last week with the videos that came out of Trump, and we've talked about them, but
let me ask you something real quick.
Everybody.
But so having this conversation today, do you think that we're just narcissistic, and that we think that what's going on in this election, when we happen to be in our 40s and actually being middle-aged and caring, and it impacts us more than it ever has before, both for our future and our kids, and that we're so vested in this that it's so present that we think it's weirder than it is, and it's more polarizing, and it's crazier. Or is it really? And somebody, actually I think it was Micah, posted about when Robert Kennedy was assassinated and the stuff that was going on at that time with riots and the civil rights movement and the unrest. I mean, that was pretty crazy time too.
Sure.
So is it more of the same, or is
there only allowed to be like one?
No, it's the Bob superlative. This is the worst election ever.
No, but so what I've been consuming so much of this, and I want to regurgitate it here, because what is Infants on Thrones really about? I mean, you can't say that there isn't any narcissistic quality to it, because we're recording ourselves, and like for me, I like listening back to. I like listen because I learn from it, And then when we have interactions with listeners and stuff, I learn from that, and so there's definitely that narcissistic element to it. But I think that this for me, especially this last week and maybe even the last few days, it's transcended any kind of political discourse or election, and it's much more about like what are our shared moral values in our society, and where am I on that spectrum? How am I contributing to that in either a good way or a bad way? So it's like this moment in time that I hope people will look back on this in 20 years and put it in the same type of category as a Robert Kennedy, or a Martin Luther King, or a JFK, or those kinds of things that were really transformative moments. But
I think it's pivotal. It is. That's a good description. Whatever it is another transformative moment. I can totally see the Republican Party moving and shifting and changing as a result of this, and even the Democratic Party after what's been going on. And I think whatever's happened, politics are changed, fundamentally changed in the way what people are willing to talk about, what I guess society is willing to consume and tolerate about what the level of discourse has gotten so base. Candidly, I think it's more from one side. I don't know that the other side has gone as base or has gone as low, but it's it's freaking weird. And I love that word, weird.
I love frickin' too.
And there's not much respect going on, Glenn.
No, there isn't. There really isn't. But I think it transcends sides. I think it's bigger than like a Republican and a Democratic thing, and it really is about. And you can't lay the blame, if there's blame to be laid, at any one person or one group, because I think it's just a systemic societal thing that we're going to look at, and it's been forced upon us at this time. But it's for those of us that we're coming out of a position where we left the church and we had some kind of a realization and we had to make some choices in our life based on that. I think this is a similar thing on a larger scale. That will probably have less direct impact as leaving the church did for those of us that were raised in the church. But hopefully when we look back at it, we'll say, that was the moment that I realized even being silent about certain things in the culture is enabling it, and I'm not willing to do that anymore. I'm going to add my voice to say this really isn't right. And so like I look back on what we've done with infants, and having Chelsea on when we've had Chelsea and done like, let's talk about feminism, And,
I thought you were just going to equate Chelsea to Trump, but I wanted to see how you were going to do that.
No, that is like kind of paradigm shift. Like it's a challenging thing to have to go for us to say feminism, schmeminism, but then wait a minute, there's something here. And so like what you wrote on Facebook the other day, and I want you to read that and share that, because there are more people who listen to this than follow you on Facebook. So
how dare you?
I know.
So you talk about finally giving your voice to it, and you can support this because you were there when it kind of happened.
Don't crinkle papers, Matt. How
about if I chew?
Didn't you hear Randy get so angry at whoever it was that was crinkling papers on the last? You didn't listen, did it?
All right, what the hell is that? Like, what is that? 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 What is that?
Which one?
You've been moving.
I've been busy.
Yeah.
No, but it was in Sunstone. So when was that? When was Sunstone?
July 30th.
So July 30th was right around that time was the time that I finally got off the third party candidates and decided, I'm supporting Hillary.
Yeah.
But yet it really wasn't until this week. I bravely took the strong stance against. I've been vocally anti-Trump for a long, long time, but I was very much cowardly in being willing to say I also support Hillary.
Yeah.
And it took a lot of time, and it took such a clear where it no longer became brave or became really relevant to support Hillary at this stage after the video, and that's really when I did it. So, I mean, in many ways I feel...
But
you know
what
I mean?
Yeah, but even saying that, it's not... Like, it wasn't really about Hillary or Donald Trump. It was about the issues that were raised and your response to those issues that made you go... Oh yeah, this is the side, saying that it's okay in certain contexts for locker talk, like Trump was saying. Like Obama had some great President Barack Obama, not Michelle Obama, because they both had really great statements in the last couple of days, and I want to share both of them. But Barack Obama might say, "Well, Matt, good for finally doing that, but you should have done it earlier, and you don't get credit, for not doing it earlier." I think that's what you're saying,
and I think
too.
that's legit.
But it isn't. Like the reaction to that Trumpocalypse fear thing that I did the other day. There were a lot of people on the website that would say, "Oh, well, what about Hillary?" And I felt like Lucifer in the Temple movie. That's like,
I am your brother.
You, my brother, and come here to persuade me to disobey Father?
I have said nothing about Father. Nothing about Father. Nothing.
Or something like that. Like, I didn't bring up Hillary.
Talked about her yet.
This isn't about Hillary. This is about my reaction, and it's not even really about Donald Trump, but it's are we okay with this type of anti-feminist ideology in society, and to be so cavalier about it and jocular and so that's why I went back to like the Chelsea thing, because for us with Infants on Thrones, as we've had to deal with our own sexism and recognizing that, and what do we do, and taking infant baby steps, I feel like that was kind of preparatory in a way for this moment where I could appreciate it for what it is in a way that I wouldn't if I hadn't.
We certainly evolved, and I evolved, and I've seen you evolve in it as it relates to our feminist awakening.
I'm getting gills, like I can breathe underwater almost. Yeah,
but it's like, but say something really bad about. Say something really bad about. I was going to tie it to.
You don't need to. You don't need to explain how.
Yeah, you know where that was going.
No, I don't.
Yes. No, there's really some truth to it, but I feel it very viscerally. Yeah, wow. It really is. It's exactly what it is. I feel it so strongly, and I have such a strong reaction towards not just Trump. That's easy.
Yeah.
And in many ways, he's low-hanging fruit.
Right.
It's people who are willing to support it, and not just support it and ignore it. I feel much better for these people if they would say, yeah, abhor it. Guy's a horrible person. The things that he's saying are just horrible. I care more about these political issues.
Right.
And character be damned. These issues, the Supreme Court, whatever you say, matter more to me than this. And that's how much I either dislike or think that Hillary is or whatever. If they would at least say that. But that exists, but it's in the minority. More people have taken exactly what you said. They have doubled down on this misogynistic, anti-female, trying to justify what is horrible attitudes. Did I do 2 or 3?
I was counting the you were on your third one. You had done
bailed on it.
You did the misogynistic, anti-female, and then I don't like women either. Struggling for a third one to fill out the completeness of what you were saying. Yeah. Anyway, I'm with you.
Yeah. But that really has been troubling, and and troubling by who I've seen it from. People who I genuinely consider are thoughtful, are intelligent, are good people that have values. Yeah. Those were different, weren't they?
I'm just following you.
Okay. And that's what I've struggled with, and I'm struggling also with having very strong feelings against those people.
Yeah.
Because what you said, it comes down to, what are my values?
Yeah.
And if this is something that's so important to me that those people don't have those same values, then maybe we're just too far apart on some things that are very fundamental.
So I'm about 30 minutes into an audiobook right now that Jake finished a couple of days ago, and he's like, Glenn, you gotta read this, and we need to talk about it in the future. It's The Righteous Mind by Jonathan Haidt, I
think Jake's referenced it, but
yeah. And like I
think
said,
Scott might have read it. He said,
and I'm only 30 minutes into it, but it's like I'm coming into this at about the same time that all these other things are going on, and what his point seems to be is that we too easily fall into this binary us versus them, like we're the moral ones, they're the amoral ones. And what's really going on is it's not that they're amoral, it's that they have a different moral value set. Let
me come back to you, but Vicky, how, as a Trump supporter, I mean, how you've heard Trump's words, I'm sure unedited, how did you feel hearing that?
Well, obviously it was very offensive. However, I think it's totally irrelevant. I mean, it was so long ago, and I do believe that most men will talk about women in ways that they would never talk about publicly. And of course, if they would have known that they were being recorded, there's no doubt in my mind the conversation would have been totally different.
Okay. Let me just go back to actually what Trump said. I know you said this was a long time ago, but these are words, and he has acknowledged that this was him. Yes. He says, I'm automatically attracted to beautiful. I just start kissing them. It's like a magnet. Just kiss. I don't even wait. He goes on. And when you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything. Billy Bush says, whatever you want. Trump says, grab them by the bleep. You can do anything. He is bragging, Vicky, about sexual assault.
I hear you. He is bragging. But here's the thing. Why is it an issue now? It should not be an issue now. Everybody, the millions and millions of people who elected him, I did not choose him. And yeah, well, it's because, listen, I did not vote for Donald Trump in the primary. I did not vote for him. He was not my choice. He was like next to my last choice. But I absolutely will be. And here's why. Because of the issues. Nobody is perfect. Here's the issues. Last night in that debate, they defined their issues. They lined the marks in the sand. Number one, Roe v. Wade. Okay, Hillary Clinton doesn't care about murdering babies, dismembering abortions. That's okay with her. Okay.
Wait a second.
Religious freedom.
We're talking. I appreciate you talking about substance, and that is important, Vicky. But we're talking about locker room conversation.
Yes.
My question was about: is it okay that a man who wants to be the free world is bragging and admitting?
Okay. Well, that's wrong.
Assault.
Okay. Yes, but that is wrong. Absolutely. But here's the thing: he's not running to be the Pope. Look at the culture of our country. Everybody knew he had strip clubs, but still the millions of people chose him to be the nominee. And look at our culture. It's filled with strip clubs on every corner. I am a strong, pro-life Christian woman, and I would never talk like that. I don't smoke, I don't drink, I don't do drugs. I've been married to the same man for 32 years. I have 4 children whom I love and adore, and it's repulsive what has been said, but this whole campaign, everything about it. I mean, this is the kind of person that needs to lead our country. God can use anybody. He used the harlots, and that's the thing. It's all about what God can do. God can do this. God can use this man.
But Vicky, you're suggesting that we should talk about the issues. We should talk about the substance. I would argue that sexism and sexual assault are a part of the issues that our country must grapple with. And
absolutely,
the things
they are.
That,
absolutely, just like human trafficking,
Right, but the things that we
it's all a part of it.
From this adult man who is running to be president of the United States, millions of children heard that, boys and girls. And boys may take their cues from this guy who wants to be our president and behave in accordance with...
Okay, but here's the thing. When Bill Clinton was president, my children came home from school and they had no idea it was actually called the Oval Office. They thought it was called the Oral Office because of the talk in the elementary schools. Bill Clinton educated my children at a much younger age than I wanted to.
But Vicki, Bill Clinton isn't running for president right now.
Exactly.
We're talking about Hillary Clinton.
No, but his wife is. His wife is. And they are a pair. The two are one.
No, I disagree.
They are the same.
I disagree.
They're totally the same.
Holding a woman accountable for the sexist things that her husband says or does is the very definition of sexism itself. Hillary Clinton hasn't sexually assaulted anyone. Hillary Clinton was not caught on a tape saying these vulgar things about men or about other women, right? So I think that this is a diversion to try to take the attention away from Trump by saying that, well, Bill Clinton does it. Well, that doesn't make it right.
These are the conversations that people are having. This is the 2016 presidential election.
That's true.
This is the 2016. And Vicki, I'm grateful to have you on because, I mean, you represent a chunk of this country who absolutely, has merit and feels this way. I gotta go. Vicki Scalero and Sean Harper, I appreciate the discourse. Welcome to 2016. That's all I'm gonna say.
And so it's more respect, like if you're going for respectful dialogue or, how can we get along when we have these differences? Yeah. If you can recognize right up front and kind of TBM whisper the other side that they do have a moral foundation that they're basing their decisions on, even, so like we might say, how could somebody support Trump, like I did in that Trumpocalypse thing? And how could people be this deplorable? And then you listen to some of the people on the other side, like this woman that was interviewed by CNN that's a Trump supporter, and it comes down to her belief in God and her belief in pro-life instead of pro-choice. Okay. And that when she's trying to weigh the two candidates, who does she think is more likely to reverse Roe v. Wade and get like what's morally important to her, which that's I can understand and appreciate that. But so she's like, it doesn't matter all these things that Trump being a sexist, because if he's able to accomplish that, that's what's important to me.
Well, that was articulated. There was a discussion, I think, on Sam Harris's podcast with this dude. Was it Gad Syed? It was Gad Syed. And
this is the one that you talked about a few weeks ago?
No, this is a completely different one. But what he said just this. Yeah. He said, if I believe that the most important, it's not an aggregate of issues. You don't say which candidate supports more of my issues. You say it's a weight. And you say, if there's one issue that I just think is so important, then that's all that matters. Right. It is moral, or it can be conceived or moral to vote for a single party candidate. And he explains like the concern of refugees or the Muslim issue. If you really believe that, and if you truly believe that has more potential damage to our country, and you think that Trump is the one that's going to prevent that, then it does make both moral and logical sense to support him, if that's your belief. And you can get into just this woman is a great example. Oh, Trump is the way to go to pro-life. Seriously? What evidence is there that Trump would really advance that the pro-life? Gay marriage, he's already said his position on that, and it is not against gay marriage. So these people have conflated this is identity politics taken to a whole nother level, where you have said, whatever my identity is, whatever I think are important, I'm not going to adopt what the candidate is. I am going to project that onto the candidate that happens to share my political affiliation. And so that's even a worse form of identity politics, because it's one that's not founded in reality.
Well, I don't know if it's not found in reality or not, but it's like the lesson that I learned from it, and again, I'm coming from this kind of intuitively anyway, that villainizing the other side because they're projecting something onto Trump when there's no evidence that he'll really do it. Then we go, boy, those people are stupid, deplorable, irredeemable. Those kinds of things. Yeah. That's unfair. They're in a situation where there's two candidates to choose from. That's really the only two probable options here, even though there's all the third party stuff. Sure. You really only come down to two. And
it's the Simpsons episode with the aliens who both run for office.
I haven't seen it, but this
would be a great clip for that.
All right.
Here, wait, let's pause and I'll play this 45-minute clip. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, right. I'll just ask Randy for the highlights. I love when Randy does the Simpsons thing. But that there might not be any evidence that Trump is going to be the guy that overturns Roe v. Wade. But what's the likelihood that Hillary's going to do it, based on her track record and where she is? So that and this woman in the CNN interview, she said God works through imperfect, sinful people. And I can disagree with that. Literally what she means, but if I take it figuratively, that saying the moral thing can still happen even by an immoral person being in position, then I can go, okay, I can kind of understand that. And even if I disagree with it, I'm not saying that she's an idiot, and it's drawing that fine line, which, I had some interactions with some listeners on the website after that Trumpocalypse thing that, people would say, oh, well, they're coming on and they're really hammering you, Glenn, or whatever. But I genuinely appreciated hearing the different perspectives and even saying, look at yourself in a mirror. What are you doing here? Aren't you also doing the us versus them stuff that you're condemning them of doing? And going, yeah, I am. I've got to rethink this. So, and that's why I feel like for me that it's a pivotal time or a transformative time. And the concern that I have, because there have been times like this before where I felt like this. I felt like this after 9/11 when everybody was so come together, patriotic. I got up and I bore my testimony in sacrament meeting that said, you guys watch, this is going to pass. Everybody's all rah, there's no partisanship. This is going to pass. It's going to go right back to normal and it's going to get worse. And we're on the wrong side of it as Mormons because, the Book of Mormon talks about when should you go and invade people, only if they, when should you go to war, only if they invade you. We're going outside of our border. We're going against what the Book of Mormon says as far as going to war and stuff. And everybody looked at me like I was crazy, But so, if
you would have polled the people, the country at that time, and just should the death penalty exist, it would have been 95% at that point, right?
Oh yeah.
I mean, this is how it really changed the way people thought,
and so right now, if you poll the country and you say, is this type of locker room banter acceptable, you're going to have some people that would hedge and say, well, it's not acceptable, but it happens anyway, so we can excuse it. Not a big, but there's this heightened awareness of it right now that in 3 or 4 weeks, after the election goes by, it's going to be, something in the news cycle that comes along and people forget about it and it doesn't really make an impact. And for me, I don't want that to happen. I want this to have a long-lasting impact on the way that I view things.
Yeah. Well, do you get the sense that it really reveals this comment, and it may be a good thing, because it really exposes what people think. Yeah, and people know that as much as
Westworld, dude. That's the other thing that's converging right now. Is how do people act? How do people act when they can do anything they want to do? It brings out their true nature, dude. That show's going to be. I'm so psyched for it.
Oh, so it's a good show. And I told you, or I didn't tell you, if you love Westworld, you got to watch the rest of Black Mirror.
Oh, I know.
Because there's 2 episodes. That it's like the 2 premises are melded together to make Westworld. Okay. I think you'll pick on it. It's really cool. Yeah. Anyway, but the people, although they say they abhor political correctness, everybody has their own political correct things. But this is a function of that. And I've said that Trump or Trump's movement and the people that support him, it is this last dying gasp of the angry white man. And I think it's appropriate that it's manifested now recently in not just an angry white man as it relates to minorities and issues, but now so just fundamentally as it relates to women and the way women are treated, and this whole conversation that people have embraced has been shocking to me. Shocking that somehow we allow politicians or a presidential candidate or whomever, we accept locker room talk by 60-year-old professionals of that nature to say it's okay. And that seems really weird. I saw something today by a friend of mine who's a prosecutor of all things, who prosecutes sex crimes, and he posted this meme of that he said no different than what than what's in rap music every day, as if that's a compelling argument. As if I want the same standard in my politicians as what I do in my musicians. But this person found that compelling, and there again, I just come to that. It seems so, I don't know, nonsensical. I'll call it. It's stupid. It's immoral. I will use very strong language against that individual for doing that, because he knows better and he should know better. And this is LDS kid. He will be the first to rail against anybody who swears, let alone uses that type of language. But yet, when it comes to this, that matters more.
Right.
Just so weird.
But so
I keep saying weird. That's not the right word. It is incongruent.
It's hard for you to understand. But that doesn't mean it can't be understood, and that there aren't reasons why he's one way in one situation and one way in another one. And I think,
I do think it comes down to this is him expressing his misogyny. He now has the permission to do it when he knows otherwise it's better. But they've given an outlet for people like this who never would do it in order to express their misogyny.
Maybe. Maybe. I think we need to hear them. We need to listen to them explain why it's different for them in one, and then really listen and really hear what they're saying. And
are they providing that though?
No. Well, are we asking for it? Are we asking for them? Are we going out and actively trying to solicit that, or are we just going, man, that's weird, that's stupid, I'm going to go out, I'm going to say it, he's deplorable. Because that's what I did on that term. But then going out and listening and going, okay, I want to try and understand from their perspective what's going on. But I think you're right. It raises the issue of what are the prevailing values in the culture, and how is it being supported, and that's where I really hope that this is one of those moments for feminism that people do wake up and go, it's not just these feminazis that have been complaining and bitching about it. That this is real. Yeah. This is, like what Michelle Obama said, how it has shaken her to the core because it speaks to her lived experience, which I'm so sick of that term now, but it does. It speaks to her lived experience, and all of these women that are like, yes, I get ogled by men. I feel this, and like what you talked about, the fight or flight or freeze mentality, the way that people responded to your post on Facebook. That they're like, yes, let's raise the awareness, and not marginalize.
Just happy that a man could explain what women experience. That was...
but seriously, but that's absolutely been missing. I think, not to say that there aren't men who have, but as a culture, we're not that sensitive and aware of it. And so to me, it would be a real tragedy to have all of this awareness in this moment right now that just goes down the memory hole and gets forgotten in a few weeks with the next news style that's coming up. So that's why I want to pound the drum a little bit more on it, to say let's have the stick and change the way that we interact, and change the types of media that we consume and support and perpetuate and enable, and send the message that we're not going to accept this anymore.
Yeah. Well, it does need to be a sea change. I want to ask you about talk a little bit about engaging people and finding out, because what I've found that I've done, especially recently, after I've processed it and after I wrote my my Unabomber manifesto, that was a release for me, and very much a relief. And I've started to engage with a couple people that were pro-Trump. I'm like, all right, let's get in here. And then I've deleted everyone and just said, it's just not worth it. I feel now like it's like arguing with either a young earther or a flat earther. It really, to me, is that clear. The evidence is that clear on the one side, and so I'm engaging them isn't something that I'm interested in, but I might be persuaded that genuinely encouraging their response and saying, here's what I want to understand. That, how strongly you feel about Bill Clinton, and you do feel strongly, and rightly so. I mean, Paula Jones, Juanita Broaddrick, all this stuff. This is really bad stuff, and it was really bad stuff. And I don't want to conflate that to Hillary, because that is just, don't stop doing that, people. Stop comparing what Trump did or what Bill Clinton did to Hillary's, her defending him and attacking women that she knew there was more evidence to, and the great white right-wing conspiracy was a horrible move that she was obviously knew otherwise. So these are all bad things, but quit equating the two. They're not the same thing. But having said that, these people that feel so strongly about Bill Clinton and yet in the same breath use that. I was so offended. This is what they're saying. I was so offended at what Bill Clinton did and who Bill Clinton is. And because I hate him so much and am so offended at that, I'm going to give this man who does the same stuff a pass, because that's how much I dislike this man. And they do that without any sense of irony, without any sense of what is happening there. Yeah. Whereas I criticized and still criticize Bill Clinton for what he did, what he is, and I criticize Hillary for her role in that. And I'm criticizing Donald Trump as well. So apparently those of us who can criticize both are the only principled ones, it seems like. And I'm going to say this is the both sides thing. You go back in time, when it came to Bill Clinton thing, you had the same crap going on by Bill Clinton supporters. You had exactly what the Trump supporters are doing now to him. You had the same crap, them willing to go after Paula Jones, them willing to go after these women whose claims were righteous. Mm-hmm. So some of these Democrats and some of these Hillary supporters need to be very careful with the way they're going after the Trump supporters, because that's you too. Sure. Be better, acknowledge that, and you can at least improve and say, I was wrong when I defended him. I should have done better, and I will be better, just what you're saying. And I think that's important to say, because I don't consider myself just stumping for Hillary, as if everything she's done is great and her whole family and all that. It's not, but it is different here, and she is certainly different from Trump on this issue as well as many others.
So you said a lot in there, and I've been making mental notes of things that I want to try and comment on. I think the reason that I say that I feel like this issue transcends politics and should transcend politics is because it too easily gets assigned to Bill Clinton or Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump when it's actually something separate from them that needs to be discussed. And so, one of the first things that you said is you've been engaging Trump supporters and trying to, understand, but it's not worth it, and so you just delete them.
Yeah, so, it was more. No, I want to reverse that. I was engaging them basically to try to prove them wrong.
Yeah,
and so that's not worth it.
And that's what I wanted to ask.
Yeah.
So what is your objective in engaging them?
Yeah.
Because
just to make them look foolish. Yeah, I think I got the goods on them. Yeah,
right. If you're trying to change them or convince them or show them that they're wrong or anything like that, then I think you're right. It's worthless. But if you're really trying to understand them and you go into that conversation knowing that you're going to come out of it with different takes on things, and that's okay, and that doesn't mean that you're smart and they're stupid, and you that's really fundamentally in your head and in your heart, but you want to understand why is this really smart, intelligent, thoughtful, caring person on the complete opposite side of this particular issue from me. Why? And so you listen to them, and hopefully you can filter through all of these tangents that it goes on to Bill or Hillary or Trump and these other things, and really find what are the common moral values that you share. Because in this conversation, you just did it. You illustrated it. What happened with when Clinton was the one doing this, it wasn't okay then. What happens with Trump doing it now, it isn't okay now. So let's stop arguing about sides and say this is never okay, regardless of who does it. And I can make that agreement with somebody and not make it about these other things that we disagree about and other issues. And so isolate that one issue and say, let's agree this is a problem. Now, how are we going to fix it? Can we agree on how to fix it? What can we do to approach this? What does that need to look like? What steps do we need to take?
But doesn't that require whatever side to divorce themselves from? Because if you talk about this issue, I'd like to talk to you about how people speak about women.
Yeah.
Can we come to some agreements about that? Right. That's a good place to start. They will necessarily inject the relevant, the topic here, and it will instruct how they say. So I don't know that we will come to those agreements. I think
you might not, but I'm talking about what's your objective in engaging that conversation. You may get 5 minutes into it and realize, okay, we're not going to be able to build on any common values here. This isn't going to be possible. But if you listen to what they have to say, and if their first reaction to Trump is, well, Bill Clinton, then you can go, yeah, you're right. That was not okay in that situation. And it kind of takes the wind out of their sails because you're agreeing with them. It's like, well, wait a minute, you're agreeing with them. We're on the same side? I thought we were on opposite sides. Well, we have different views on things, but on this one, this is common. And so let's put aside who should be elected president in 3 weeks, and talk about this issue that everybody's outraged about right now. And what do we learn from this? What should happen? Because it impacts anybody on any side.
Let me read something here again from Sam Harris. Sam Harris has become my South Park and Simpsons and he's become my Louis C.K.
All right.
This is everything, right?
Yeah. All right.
But someone shared this, and I think it ties into when you talk about the principles and it transcending both sides. Maybe not. But he says, if there's a silver lining here, it's that many of us now see how vulnerable our political system is. Charlatanism, conspiracy theories, and populist unreason on both the right and the left. The role that the media has played, rendering us all moths to the Trumpian flame, will be scrutinized for years to come. The truth about us is sobering. We have been playing with our smartphones while hurtling toward the abyss.
Yeah. With reality TV on in the background.
Yeah. I really think there's, and Scott and I were visiting today about that after you and I talked about, or after we all talked about maybe talking about this, which was,
I love when we talk about talking about.
Yeah, it's a nice setup. Yeah.
It is
the spiritual creation, as it were.
Yeah,
but how news, where people rely on news, and we've talked about this on Infants before, where it used to be the three major broadcast channels, and there was some credibility and some reliability to that stuff. But it's moved, and then you have Fox News and CNN, and each kind of
creating these little echo chambers.
Yeah, and it's gotten worse since social media with these Alex Joneses and these infants on thrones. Yeah, and I think that really affects things, and that's why when we're looking at our smartphone, we're looking at the HuffPo and saying, see, this is real news. Or, my gosh, people are still citing Snopes as if it's the goddamn most objective thing. If it comes to Snopes, that's as good as God himself coming down and declaring it as true.
Yeah.
What the fuck did this happen? Where did this happen?
I didn't realize you were so anti-Snopes.
I am anti-Snopes.
This is great. Right.
I am anti-Snopes because all you have to do is read what they do, and they spin. When they say, "Oh, they'll say has been demonstrated to be whatever," right? And then you read it, and then they play games, man, just like anyone else.
And so, I mean, this is an interesting case study. So why is it that Snopes has its power?
Because at one point it became I believe it was used to deal with. Debunk the
myths.
Not just myths. What are those things called? The
fallacies?
No,
I don't know. Urban legends.
Urban legends. Okay. Yeah, urban legends. Right.
This is like $20,000 pyramid. It's like
a thing. No, tell me more. Say words. Say words. I can't say. I'm done. I'm stuck.
I can't say the word that's on the card. You have to say it.
Loved that game. Dude.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So yeah. I think because Snopes scratches that.
That was a weird rant against Snopes for me, wasn't it?
You got really
worked
pissed,
up on
man.
Snopes.
Yeah. I thought you were going to hit me for a minute there.
That's funny.
Yeah, but and the reason I laugh at it is because whenever I would tell people I'm studying folklore or something like that, they always come and go, "Oh, here's this story. Is it true?" I'm like, I don't give a shit. It's not about whether it's true or not. But I say that, but they walk away from it still going, "No, I want to know if it's true or not." And that's where Snopes comes in and goes like, "I'll tell you if it's true or not." We're like, "Oh, finally!" And like, is anybody snoping Snopes? Right? So we're like, "Oh, finally, somebody can tell us." And there was this.
There's a website there somewhere. It's Will Snope Snopes.
Snopes. Yeah, snoping the snopers. But I'll have to find this and include it in the final edit of this if I even edit it.
Okay, obviously I decided to edit it, and I did a little bit of research here. So here are some excerpts from Donald Trump's 1987 biography, The Art of the Deal. He says, "One thing I've learned about the press is that they're always hungry for a good story, and the more sensational, the better. The point is that if you're a little different, a little outrageous, or if you do things that are bold or controversial, the press is going to write about you. The result is that the press is always going to write about me. The final key to the way I promote is bravado. I play to people's fantasies. People may not always think big themselves, but they still get very excited by those who do. That's why a little hyperbole never hurts. People want to believe that something is the biggest and the greatest and the most spectacular. I call it truthful hyperbole. It's an innocent form of exaggeration and a very effective form of promotion." End quote.
But one of the things that he does that's made him so successful in business is that he sells people's fantasies to them. So he recognizes what their fantasy is, and he reflects that back to them, and that gives him power. And I'm like, holy cow, that's exactly what he's doing here. He recognizes, you called it what, like white angry or angry white, which I think is
the gasping, angry white man.
I think that's too pejorative and dismissive, really. But there is rhetorical. It is very real angst out there by this demographic of people that aren't feeling heard. They're not feeling represented. They're not feeling appreciated. And so Don J. Trump or whatever he is can come in and say, I'm hearing you, I'm listening to it, I'm going to make it better, nobody else is. And even though it's bullshit and he's a proven con man, they go, oh, finally somebody's going to have the balls to stand up for me and the things that are important to me. And that's why they like him and support him, because they feel underrepresented and they feel like judged and dismissed by the intellectual hoo-haws that because they're wise they think, or because they're learned they think they are wise. That whole anti-intellectual strain that is well deserved, because I'm like that. And that's a failing on my part. I've got to figure out a way to overcome that and not become totally boring in the process. But anyway, so that's why I feel like this is a time spot.
Yeah.
Just a spot in time.
Well, and anyone who thought feminism was not necessary or is I don't know what. That they've already gotten equal rights.
What are they complaining about? What are they complaining about? Why don't they stop complaining already?
Well, anyone who thinks that, all they have to do is look around what's been going wrong last week.
Exactly.
It's a real problem.
And ditto for racism.
Yeah.
And all the stuff that's still going on. There's these real problems in the country that even though we can't go, oh, well, we've got a black president, racism is dead.
Yeah.
No.
Right.
There's still these attitudes where we haven't quite evolved our shared moral code.
Yeah.
And we're still in the process, and it probably will take a long time to get there, but this is a moment. Time spot.
But doesn't too much of this false dichotomies, right? Is that where it has to be one extreme or the other is so pervasive. And I think part of it is that we can't have we can't deal in our attention spans are very short. Mine is as well.
Yeah.
I don't consume a lot of stuff, partially because I have to for my job. I have to read a lot and in deep stuff. So I don't like to do that when I'm not working. So it causes us just to make these snap decisions and shortcuts, and so it doesn't rather allow for nuance or substance. And I wrote something that was considered, was for Facebook standards is very long. And I had a couple friends, or I had a friend even. It was like, yeah, this is too long. I'm not going to read it.
Yeah,
and I was just like, well, what the fuck? Maybe there's something.
Thanks for the feedback.
I was like, well, okay. Could have not commented at all.
I love that there's a TLDR because it's too long to even say too long didn't read. We can't even say that. It's a TLDR.
Right. But and a lot of people posted and said, hey, this is really long, but it's worth the read. And that was very kind, but it was always a comment on this is really long.
So read it.
But my thought was,
read it. Come on.
I'm happy to.
It's from Matt Long.
Yes, Matt
So
Long.
it should be long.
Yeah. But the point is, well, maybe there's stuff that requires a little bit of setup and a little bit of drawing out to understand things a little more completely. Or we could just say, blah, with one line and jump to it.
Yeah.
But we're doing that too often, I think, and that's a problem.
I was standing in line at an airport yesterday, flying back from Europe. I was there on business, and I was with a guy that lives in Ireland, and we were talking about this stuff with Trump, and he was making a comment to the Brexit vote, a few months ago, and that like the top Googled term after that vote passed, and that Britain was going to leave the European Union, was, what is the European Union? What is the EU? So there's all of these uninformed voters that got worked up from a sense of nationalism, but it's really a place of ignorance, and that's the danger of democracy, right? That you open it up and everybody can have an equal vote, whether they're equally informed or not, and so how much of the responsibility do you put on the media or the entertainment industry, because that's how people get their information, and it may be echo chambers like the Daily Show or Colbert, things like that. But at least those things are raising some awareness of what's going on in the real world instead of just, I don't know, insignificant things. So I think I don't know what the solution is to have people be more educated and make more better informed decisions is what I want to say. More better informed.
Yeah. But everybody thinks they're informed.
See, you're peeling off stickers because you just can't even sit still. What do you like? What is that? Why did you peel that sticker off of your computer?
What is
That doesn't belong here.
That shouldn't be there.
It shouldn't be there.
I don't need a button to tell me that there's a volume thing on here.
Guess what? This has audio. The USB is always on, and it has a fast charge.
Okay, there's nothing. That's not like one of those mattress tags that says you can't remove it, or like the police come.
In fact, it doesn't tell me anything, and I just realized that.
Okay, all right.
So
okay.
Yeah.
So I'd like for you to read your post, but I'm going to check my email while you do it.
That's fine, because you've read it. You've heard it and read it, actually. Sort of.
I've got other things to do.
Yeah, that's fine. So I wrote this a few nights ago as a closing argument, because I was thinking about this, and I wanted to.
Are you going to tell everybody how pissed you were at me for the feedback I gave you?
No, I wasn't pissed at you. I was tired, and all I was looking for was some reinforcement from my friend Glenn.
I loved it though, because honestly, I'm out of the country on business, and here's Matt texting me going, "Dude, do you have a couple minutes? Can you read this?" So I jumped out of my meeting. I read this thing. I gave you feedback.
And it's 11 o'clock at my time, and 8 something your time, right?
Yeah, something like that. But that was awesome. I love doing it. But then you're like, "What the hell, dude? This isn't helpful to me at all." Fuck off.
But it turned out being helpful. Right. Okay. But no, I wrote this as a closing statement. So it's a little. Anyway, I'll just get to it.
So the premise is that you're standing in front of a jury who they've all witnessed what's going on in the media, so that they're all kind of informed about what has gone on, and you're making an argument.
So there's been evidence presented, and the real evidence that's been presented is what we really know, but particularly this audio. Yeah. And so the point is saying, can I explain like I do in a closing argument, what the evidence means, and convince people that the evidence means what I'm saying it means. Now, in theory, we'd have other witnesses that would explain that. We would have other experts in there that would talk about victimology, talk about victim behaviors, possibly talk about offender characteristics and these types of things. So there'd be some of that, but I don't think you need that in order to get that. But that is the idea, is that I'm standing in front of a jury, explaining, trying to convince them of, trying to convict Donald Trump essentially of a sex crime, right? So here it is. Donald Trump is a rapist. I'm convinced of this. If I knew nothing more of him than this, that would be enough not to vote for him. Trump just tells it like it is. He isn't politically correct. He says what he means and he does what he says he'll do. That's his claim, and that's what his supporters would have you believe are some of the reasons they'll vote for him. Believe him. Believe his words. I'm convinced he does tell it like it is. At least when it comes to women, he does. Now, you've heard Trump's defenders attempt to convince you that he was just fooling, joshing, bragging, or perhaps more precisely, uttering an untruth when he said this. Trump, I just start kissing them. It's like a magnet. Just kiss. I don't even wait. And when you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything. Bush, whatever you want. Trump, grab him by the pussy. You can do anything. His supporters need to believe and want you to believe that he was speaking an untruth and not telling it like it is in order to convince themselves and you that Donald Trump is not a rapist. But make no mistake, what he described is rape. Sexual abuse, or grabbing a woman's pussy without her consent, is an act of rape. An act meant to rape her sense of safety, rape her sense of security, rape her confidence, rape her emotions, rape her day, and rape her personal space. That's what you do when you kiss them and, quote, do anything you want without their consent. You rape their ability to choose their own lived experience in that moment. His supporters need to convince themselves that he's bragging, joshing, or telling an untruth in order to be convinced that he's not a rapist. I suppose another option is that they're convinced he's a rapist, but will vote for him anyway. If that's their argument, then we don't have a quarrel, because the point of this the point of this word vomit, typewritten word vomit, I like it, is to explain to my kids and anyone else who cares to know why I'm convinced Donald is a rapist.
Right, and I mean, also to that point, that it's not really about Donald at all. It's that this is wrong. Yeah. That like joking around, this locker talk room, it's not acceptable, and I'm going to stand up for that.
Right.
Right. Okay. Cool.
And communicate it to my kids really did matter.
Right.
Donald, let's see. Now for those who maintain he was bragging, joshing, or telling an untruth, I'd like to explore the idea that when Donald speaks about women, he always says what he means and tells what happened. All we need to do is look at the recording itself to know that Trump is, at least when it comes to women, telling it like it is and confessing to being a rapist. Donald has never been shy about discussing exactly how he feels about women and how he treats them. He'll tell you the women he thinks are pigs and the women he thinks are beautiful. He'll even say the things he honestly thinks, as inappropriate as they may be, about his own daughter. Donald is so honest when it comes to women, he'll even talk about his failures. He was open about the married woman he moved on like a bitch.
Now, what exactly did he mean? Like, when he says, was he the bitch or was she the bitch?
I think he was saying, he moved on her, like...
I don't understand, like, that phrase, like a bitch.
I don't know.
He was moving like a bitch, or that, like, she was a bitch in heat and he was moving on her like that? Is that what it was?
No, that might be better. That makes more sense.
Okay.
I moved on her like she's a bitch.
So, like, that he's not calling himself a bitch, he's calling her a bitch.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, anyway,
like
that's just been something...
What's that? There's that song, like it's that Two Life Crew. Like a bitch in heat. A dog with da-da-da.
Yeah, that's
because meat's so horny.
Insert rap song here.
It's not in my... Sorry, I don't... That's not in here.
Yeah.
It might be in there.
It is in here.
Yeah.
Because in my youth, I was a big fan of Two Life Crew. Okay. So we all had our...
vices.
Misogynistic times where we'd embrace it.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. No, I think you're right, dude. That's...
he humbly admitted that he tried...
You can't even find it, dude. He humbly admitted that he tried to fuck the married woman, who he moved on like a bitch. He conceded that this married woman turned him down. Now, almost everyone would agree that Donald is not known for his humility. He has a big ego. Huge. The biggest and probably the best. But when it comes to women, Donald tells it like it is, even when he's talking about being turned down. His recitation of the time he was turned down is significant because it instructs us that what he's talking about is real.
I thought this was such a good point. That you can't say he's just joking around, right? Because why else would he? I tried to move on her. I was rejected. I'll admit it. So
that's not bragging.
He's not like,
that's not locker room talk.
Well, it's bragging about his own it doesn't matter to me if I fail or succeed. I'm going to act this way. This is how I act. This is how I am. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah.
But that's what was being bragged about.
So it's significant because it instructs us that what he's talking about is real. He was really turned down. He isn't bragging, he isn't joshing, and he isn't telling an untruth. He's telling what happened. After honestly admitting about a time he was turned down, demonstrating that what he's saying is real, he speaks about multiple times when he's in control, when he has the power, when they don't turn him down. Times when he would just start kissing them. He's like a magnet. He just kisses. He doesn't even wait. He doesn't even wait.
Yeah. For what?
Consent.
Yeah. For anything.
Anything.
Yeah, for any feedback.
He doesn't have to wait.
Yeah. He says no one respects women more than he does. Yeah. Right. Respects them so much he doesn't even care how they feel about this action in this case. Yeah. It's just
And because he's a star, he thinks they let him do it.
Yeah.
What he doesn't realize is they aren't letting him do it. They're frozen. They don't freeze because they like it, but because his violence and his intrusion put them in a fight, flight, or freeze state.
And this is another thing where I thought back on previous infants episodes that we had, where you remember Nancy's listener essay about the time that she was sexually assaulted in the movie theater, and how brave of her to come on and share that story. I remember going into that episode thinking, how are we going to do an infants episode about sexual assault? My sister was on. It was like so, but it was such a great eye-opening thing for me, and even made me think about times in my own past where I had made a move on a girl, 14 years old, and she froze, and I'm like, dude, did I sexually assault her when I was 14 years old? Holy shit! So this point that you're making in here, I think when I look at the responses on your post that really spoke to women, that they're like, yes, you described what happens inside of my head when that goes on. Thank you for acknowledging that. But anyway, go on.
They're experiencing what all animals experience when they encounter a predator. As the result of years of learned experiences dealing with men like this, these women are most likely to freeze. Donald expresses in just a few words the frightful real-world experience of every one of his victims. He describes how they froze, believing in his twisted mind they're letting him do it, and then tells us exactly what he does to them after they freeze. Now, they don't all freeze. Some, like the married woman he moved on, turn him down. Some fight, and others flee, but most freeze.
And this is a little bit of a tangent, but then what did he say about that married woman that rejected him?
No,
and now she's got all the fake tits and everything like that, and so he's still totally belittling her, almost like suggesting now she'd be up for it, she was little Miss Goody Two Shoes back then, but now look at her.
Yeah, what an ass.
Yeah.
He's learned that if they freeze, there's a good chance that they won't tell. Donald has learned that if they freeze, there's a good chance that they'll wonder to themselves if they let it happen.
Oh.
It isn't their fault, and they didn't let it happen. But they've been conditioned to believe that freezing looks like consent to those who haven't been in that situation, just like many men. Even if they don't wonder this, they'll understand that others will. They'll blame themselves and feel a sense of responsibility for not stopping him and for freezing. They'll believe that no one will believe them. They'll be mistaken. Many will believe them, but perhaps more won't. That's what he's counting on, that more won't believe them.
And I'm actually getting a little emotional as you're reading this, because I haven't ever talked about this, but listeners will remember my daughter Shaylee, who sang on the Disney for kids.
What would I give if I could live out in the open? But now they say if you are gay, you'll impact your kids. Guess I should stay inside where it's safe, and I'll just repress my emotions. Could be healthy to be stealthy and just conform.
She had an experience like this with a former boyfriend. This happened a year ago. She was in a car with him alone. He locked the doors. He made some unwanted moves on her. She tried to get out. And, so for the last few months, she's been fighting this case at Indiana University against him, and finally was able to get him, they only expelled him for a year, but it was something.
Yeah.
And I was able to sit in on these hearings, and I was so glad, one, to have you, Matt, to talk to about this through that, but also for the experiences of doing the podcast, for Nancy's essay, for other conversations that we've had. Because I never thought I would have to sit down and hear my daughter explain to me something like this that had happened to her, and then how do I react to it? When we were in that hearing, and people were asking her, well, why did you stay in the car? Why didn't you just get out and leave? Yeah. And it's because not enough people recognize what you just explained here about freeze. That is the most common response, is freezing. Yeah. And then the predator interprets that as consent. Yeah. No, it's not consent. So
we have to get this out there. The more people understand this, Yeah. No. And
so it's real, and it impacts people that we love.
Yeah.
And whether we know it or not. So that's one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about this, and I didn't have that awareness.
Well, recently, it was a few months ago, I asked Kristen, or told Kristen, I said, I want you to tell me when you're getting ogled, and when you're feeling uncomfortable, and when somebody treats when
that's why you hit me at the
you've got permission, as you know, to check her out.
Okay, sure, all right.
See, this is probably even bad to do that in the context of it, but
is it?
I don't know, but and she's been doing it, and she tells me, oh yeah, that guy's just looking at my chest. That guy just looked me up and down, and
and so it's making you aware of how frequently it's happening. That's really smart. I'm going to ask Krista that.
Yeah, and I'm surprised. I was like, oh my gosh, and see, Kristen is she's comfortable with her body. She's comfortable in she has become, over however many years, finally comfortable in wearing comfortable clothes, less clothes because for comfort reasons, and she's embraced that. And so there's that paradox of, well, maybe I should cover up more versus...
She thinks, is it like, oh, is it my fault? Did I do something like this somehow? Right,
yes.
Yeah.
Huh, your tank top cute, and you should be able to wear a summer dress out in Arizona.
What did you say was cute?
Your tank top, or...
Okay.
What do you think?
I thought you said taint.
They're also kind of cute.
Okay, all right.
I'm honest, but...
How little clothes does she wear?
Now back to my sexual assault thing. Yes. So now, he counts on that more won't believe them. After unknowingly educating us about the real world and how a woman who is traumatized is likely to freeze, Donald tells us what he does after they freeze. He takes his hand and he grabs their crotch without their permission. The thing that goes unspoken, but that must be understood, is what else he does when he has the time and opportunity to go further.
Yeah.
The grabbing the crotch that he jumps to, that he goes from kissing to you can do whatever you want. You can grab him by the pussy. Not, hey, you can pat him in the butt. You can touch their breast. He goes right to the most intimate of places, and that is telling. And I didn't put that in there, but that is telling.
Yeah,
this is a guy who jumps to there. There's no progression. He jumps to the most assaultive behavior he can in the moment that he can. Now, make no mistake, I'm convinced he is a liar. He's a braggart. He's a con man who will say any untrue thing. I submit that's been demonstrated I submit that he is demonstrated to be this type of person. But I'm not here to convince you he's a liar. That's not my point. My purpose in writing is to simply say it. Trump is a rapist. I say it so his victims might hear it, and so other victims will hear me, a man, say it.
But we talked about earlier about how do people with different viewpoints come together and say this is a problem, how are we going to fix it, right? So I think what this illustrates, and we saw it with Bill Cosby, we saw it with Bill Clinton, we've seen it in other cases where when women come forward, the first reaction is to disbelieve them, and that perpetuates this culture. I think it's just a tip of the iceberg of this culture that keeps them from coming forward when something like this happens. So what can be done as a society to fix that and get away with that and to create a more accepting environment where, of course, you need to vet every claim and make sure that it's legit, but that shouldn't be like the sword of Damocles that hangs over their head.
No, certainly.
And keeps them silent, or at least one of them, because there are probably other things that keep them from coming forward. And then that enables the predators and just part of this whole culture thing.
It does, and it's challenging, it's complicated. And I had this conversation with Nick and Anessa the other day where I was saying this. I was advancing. I want people to receive information neutrally. To the victim, that should always be perceived as, I believe you and I'm open to what you're saying. You can never start with not believing. That's not where we should start. No one should. I think even when we talk about the impact that these accusations can have on a person's career, reputation, these things, these are no small thing.
Well, I have another personal experience here. I was arrested.
Right.
I was in this process of going through a divorce, and my ex-wife was upset with me, and she called the police, and she made allegations against me that weren't true, and I got arrested, and I spent 24 hours in jail. And you asked me at that time, I'm like, she shouldn't be able to just make this baseless accusation and have something that impacts me in that way.
Yeah.
And a few days after this happened, I get called by my boss at work and HR, and they're like, what's going on here? Your name was in the newspaper. It's still on Google. I've gone for with all the international travel that I do, I've tried to get like a global entry pass, and I was rejected because I had to, so there's
it was like a DV tag, basically. Like there's a risk of domestic violence.
Right. Which it's still scary, but to me, for me to have to go through like something like that, if that would mean that it would create an atmosphere where, because even at the time, I recognized and I appreciated that the officers that were taking me in had to take this seriously, because this stuff really does happen, and you've got to take it seriously. So yes, I was put in a shitty situation because of but if that means it creates an environment where women can come forward with claims and feel more like they're going to be believed. I'm okay with that. But anyway,
no. But these are valuable conversations to have, and and we have to do it as emotionally neutral as we can, and not just and I get that I have the credibility and I have the background to say, let's not go too far, right? Because I can point to what I've done in the past and things that I've said, and so I can get away with that. But this is the same shit that the Trump supporters are saying too, and I'm not trying to do that. And it was probably the point that is so nuanced and complicated that it's probably lost in translation.
And I think this is one of the false equivalencies that we make, because you just referenced Trump supporters, and in my mind I thought, well, don't you mean rape supporters? But
Clinton supporters, or Bill Clinton supporters.
But then I'm like, but that's the problem that we make, is that we make these equivalents that because they support Trump, that they also support this deplorable behavior, when you can see evidence that no, they don't support that. They're supporting Trump for other reasons that are completely divorced from this,
and they'll give him a pass because of those other issues on this issue. It's a good point. So I'm not saying don't believe; they should be believed. All right. I'm convinced he's demonstrated that he tells it like it is when he's speaking about women. He was honest when he says he believes some women are pigs. He's speaking honestly when he says certain women are beautiful. He's talking about his real world when he said he'd date his daughter. He spoke truth when he talked about the benefits of owning a beauty pageant. That part was just, that piece of it I felt that's been lost, and that's because that deals with girls that are as young as 14.
Right. Well, that's the current rape allegations against him. It was a woman that I think was a girl that was 13 or 14 at the time that's now got a court case. I was shocked when I saw, my daughter, because she's so connected to these things. She's like, Dad, Trump is there's actually a hearing that's been set in December, and this, anyway. And I hadn't heard any of that in the media. But anyway, go ahead.
He was being honest when he said he moved on a married woman and she turned him down. He was being honest when he unknowingly went through the process of victimization, explaining how he selects his victim, engages them, and grooves them with a light touch or a kiss to gauge their reaction.
That again, right there. This is something that should be elaborated on, because this speaks from your experience, that you can say something like this and you know exactly what you mean, but I don't think that the common person would understand that there is a pattern that you explain here, and that he evidences that pattern in what he says
in 3 lines.
And you're able to go, oh yeah, I've seen this before. This is what's going on. So that when you're coming out and you're saying he's a rapist, and people are going to go, wait a minute, that's a strong claim. How are you qualified to even say that? What's your evidence? And you go, look, I've been doing this for a long time. I've seen these kinds of patterns. This right here, this grooming, the selecting and grooming. I don't even know what the other one is in here, but
engagement. Yeah. And the engagement is him engagement can be just his celebrity and his status. That's enough to engage someone and garner just a little bit of
select, engage, groom. Yeah, right.
So he wasn't telling an untruth, but he was honestly sharing his lived experience. I think I got 3 of those lived experiences in this thing, Glenn. My favorite, When he described how he assaults them by grabbing them in what he likely perceives as the most private area of their body. You told it exactly like it was, Donald. You did what you said, and you said what you did. I believe you.
He even put in a tic tac just in case it happened. Just in case. With Ariane.
Yeah. Donald Trump is a rapist.
Oh, and then you added this little bit at the end.
Oh, I added it a little bit, because it started. This thing started getting shared around. So I did make it public because I thought, okay, people may share this around a little bit. Yeah. And it started getting shared around enough to people, and people were commenting.
35 shares. That's a lot.
Yeah. And people started commenting, and I realized, in my circle, people know who I am. Yeah. But now people are just going to think I'm bloviating.
That's why I put the comment that I did. I saw on there too, just to let people know this is not just baseless speculation here. This guy knows what he's talking about. So. All right, man. Well, good conversation. I want to turn this around pretty quickly. So there's some clips.
It's long right now, but
I know there's clips I want to add to it, but I really don't think I'm going to go through and edit this.
Except that obviously I did decide to edit it, so I've been spending all Saturday ignoring my sweet wife, who's been patiently sitting in the other room waiting to go furniture shopping. So, Krista, I'm on my way. But I want to put, one of the things that inspired this whole thing was Michelle Obama's awesome speech that it's between, it's just under 10 minutes long. And I want to include it here because it was so important and impactful to hear what this experience is like that I'm missing out on as a white, privileged, heterosexual, male, privileged, male, white, male, privileged. How many times do I have to, say those things I am? And I don't see or really understand this perspective that I need to. And so her raising this whole thing being raised right now, I want to capture this moment in time and not waste it, Because positive words can have an impact on the physical world, Randy, and that's not just whatever from the secret stuff. That's not just magic. It's real, man. Sound waves, dude. Sound waves impacting your ears, sending electronic signals, translating into emotions. Positive thoughts can translate into words and really move people, and so can negative, and so can silence. And so I can't let that happen. I gotta stand up for these things. And Michelle Obama, beautiful, beautiful speech. So I want to end with that. So thank you for this episode, for listening to this episode today and indulging us in our, excitement as we're trying to figure these things out. And you will get a sneak peek at the end of this. A little teeny tiny sneak peek to the General Conference episode that is being prepared simultaneously to this and will be released tomorrow, right? So hang on, almost through. Michelle Obama.
The fact is that in this election, we have a candidate for president of the United States who over the course of his lifetime, in the course of this campaign, has said things about women that are so shocking, so demeaning, that I simply will not repeat anything here today. And last week, we saw this candidate actually bragging about sexually assaulting women. And I can't believe that I'm saying that a candidate for president of the United States has bragged about sexually assaulting women. And I have to tell you that I can't stop thinking about this. It has shaken me to my core in a way that I couldn't have predicted. So while I'd love nothing more than to pretend like this isn't happening and to come out here and do my normal campaign speech, it would be dishonest and disingenuous to me to just move on to the next thing like this was all just a bad dream. This is not something that we can ignore. It's not something we can just sweep under the rug as just another disturbing footnote in a sad election season. Because this was not just a lewd conversation. This wasn't just locker room banter. This was a powerful individual speaking freely and openly about sexually predatory behavior and actually bragging about kissing and groping women, using language so obscene that many of us were worried about our children hearing it when we turn on the TV. And to make matters worse, it now seems very clear that this isn't an isolated incident. It's one of countless examples of how he has treated women his whole life. And I have to tell you that I listen to all of this, and I feel it so personally. And I'm sure that many of you do too, particularly the women. The shameful comments about our bodies, the disrespect of our ambitions and intellect, the belief that you can do anything you want to a woman. It is cruel. It's frightening. And the truth is, it hurts. It hurts. It's like that sick, sinking feeling you get when you're walking down the street, minding your own business, and some guy yells out vulgar words about your body. Or when you see that guy at work that stands just a little too close, stares a little too long, and makes you feel uncomfortable in your own skin. It's that feeling of terror and violation that too many women have felt when someone has grabbed them or forced himself on them and they've said no, but he didn't listen. Something that we know happens on college campuses and countless other places every single day. It reminds us of stories we've heard from our mothers and grandmothers about how back in their day, the boss could say and do whatever he pleased to the women in the office. And even though they worked so hard, jumped over every hurdle to prove themselves, it was never enough. We thought all of that was ancient history, didn't we? And so many have worked for so many years to end this kind of violence and abuse and disrespect, but here we are in 2016, and we're hearing these exact same things every day on the campaign trail. We are drowning in it. And all of us are doing what women have always done. We're trying to keep our heads above water, just trying to get through it, trying to pretend like this doesn't really bother us. Maybe because we think that admitting how much it hurts makes us as women look weak. Maybe we're afraid to be that vulnerable. Maybe we've grown accustomed to swallowing these emotions and staying quiet because we've seen that people often won't take our word over his. Or maybe we don't want to believe that there are still people out there who think so little of us as women. Too many are treating this as just another day's headline, as if our outrage is overblown or unwarranted, as if this is normal, just politics as usual. But New Hampshire, be clear, this is not normal. This is not politics as usual. This is disgraceful. It is intolerable. And it doesn't matter what party you belong to, Democrat, Republican, Independent, no woman deserves to be treated this way. None of us deserves this kind of abuse. And I know it's a campaign, but this isn't about politics. It's about basic human decency. It's about right and wrong. And we simply cannot endure this or expose our children to this any longer, not for another minute, and let alone for 4 years. Now is the time for all of us to stand up and say, enough is enough. This has got to stop right now. Because consider this. If all of this is painful to us as grown women, what do you think this is doing to our children? What messages are our little girls hearing about who they should look like, how they should act? What lessons are they learning about their value as professionals, as human beings, about their dreams and aspirations? And how is this affecting men and boys in this country? Because I can tell you that the men in my life do not talk about women like this, and I know that my family is not unusual. And to dismiss this as everyday locker room talk is an insult to decent men everywhere. The men that you and I know don't treat women this way. They are loving fathers who are sickened by the thought of their daughters being exposed to this kind of vicious language about women. They are husbands and brothers and sons who don't tolerate women being treated and demeaned and disrespected. And like us, these men are worried about the impact this election is having on our boys who are looking for role models of what it means to be a man. In fact, someone recently told me a story about their 6-year-old son who one day was watching the news. They were watching the news together, and the little boy out of the blue said, "I think Hillary Clinton will be president." And his mom said, "Well, why do you say that?" And this little 6-year-old said, "Because the other guy called someone a piggy." And he said, "You cannot be president if you call someone a piggy." So even a 6-year-old knows better. A 6-year-old knows that this is not how adults behave. This is not how decent human beings behave. And this is certainly not how someone who wants to be president of the United States behaves. Because let's be very clear, strong men, men who are truly role models, don't need to put down women to make themselves feel powerful. People who are truly strong lift others up. People who are truly powerful bring others together. And that is what we need in our next president. We need someone who is a uniting force in this country. We need someone who will heal the wounds that divide us. Someone who truly cares about us and our children. Someone with strength and compassion to lead this country forward. And let me tell you, I'm here today because I believe with all of my heart that Hillary Clinton will be that president.
It's a lot easier when we're live, isn't it?
It's fun. It's fun.
Infants road trip.
Infants road trip. Yeah, we're not going anywhere right now, but yeah, I do like that. Yeah, and the General Conference episode. I'm gonna put a little sneak peek teaser at the end of this one.
Sweet.
Yeah,
that's very good.
Cool.
All right, check this.
You have to vote for one of us.
Right, this is a two-party system. Well, I believe I'll vote for a third-party candidate.
Go ahead. Throw your vote away.
Yeah, that was really insightful.
They're aliens, and they come down, and they both run for president, one on the Republican, one on the Democrat side.
Okay, but they're both
there to take over the world, and so the next scene is all humans have become slaves to this alien race.
So it's kind of like it doesn't really matter which candidate we choose, Trump or Clinton. Either one of them is this alien to our lived experience and going to enslave us.
Something like
one
that.
or the other. Yeah,
it's more.
I don't think I really buy into that whole premise.
I think it's more a commentary on the futility of a third-party vote. Yeah. That's really what it is.
Yeah, okay.
It's Infant General Conference again. It's time to put on neckties. Adult diapers might be nice. It's time to mock God's leaders in the General Conference.
Hi, this is Nancy from Minneapolis, Minnesota, the Great White North of the United States. You can comment on this episode on the website, infantsonthrones.com. And if you really like what you hear, give the Quorum a 5-star rating and write a short review on iTunes. I did. And if you act fast, you could put your review right next to mine, and we could be buddies. Anyone for the closing prayer?
That Ballard guy just farted. On the most satirical, cut and biblical, slightly lyrical, raging boner kill. This is what they call Infants on Thrones.
General Conference episode.
Thank you for listening to Infants on Thrones. Infants on Thrones.